The Mansion in the Mist by John Bellairs, Chapter 15. When Miss Eels, Anthony, and Emerson came to, they felt very dizzy and scared to death. As before, they were grouped around the desk. But they weren't in Emerson's parlor anymore. They were in a gloomy vaulted chamber that seemed to be a crypt. All around them they saw deep niches set in rough stone walls, and many of these held coffins. Low gray arches supported the ceiling, and rows of squat pillars marched away into the distance. The place smelled damp and moldy, and the air seemed clammy, bone-chilling, and somehow evil. Emerson shuddered and wiped his face with his handkerchief. "Well, here we are, wherever this is, or wherever that is," he announced, as he peered around at the grim scene. "Probably we are in some part of the Blackstone mansion of the Autarchs. We have to go outside to search for the sundial." Miss Eels was just recovering from the shock of the whirling journey they had been on. Once again, she silently accused herself. If she had not gone along with Emerson's plans, she wouldn't be here, but there was no turning back now. Emerson picked up the 4 playing cards and put them in his hip pocket. Then, after grabbing the shovel, he began to walk down the corridor. Miss Eels and Anthony followed him past the stone arches. The chamber was lit by a grayish glow that seemed to come from nowhere in particular. At last they arrived at a stone staircase that spiraled upward into shadows. But as they were about to start climbing, someone came bounding down the steps to meet them. He was a short, elderly man with a wrinkly face and sagging cheeks. Bare feet peeked out from the folds of his tattered black robe, and straggly gray hair hung down over his hunched shoulders. But in spite of his shabby appearance and the frightening way he had jumped out at them, the 3 travelers somehow knew they had nothing to fear from this man. There was an air of kindness and gentleness about him, and his mouth was pursed into a wistful pout. "Oh, hello there," said the little man, waving shyly. "Imagine meeting you folks here." Anthony, Emerson, and Miss Eels had been startled at first, but now they were merely curious. Who was this man, and why was he acting as if he knew who they were? Emerson thought a bit. He had a hunch that he knew who this was, but he couldn't be sure yet. Holding out his hand, he smiled politely and said, "Emerson Eels, at your service, and who, pray tell, might you be?" The little man giggled. "I'll bet you know already," he exclaimed. "My name is Wabe. Nathaniel Wabe, formerly of the Grand Society of Autarchs. Pleased to meet you all." Anthony was stunned, but then his heart sank. This had to be the man who had scratched Wabe on the gold coin. But because that was his name, was the clue meaningless? Had they come all this way for nothing? "In case you were wondering," the man went on, "I'm the one who left the note in the vase in your cottage. I used to make lots of trips back and forth between this world and Earth, but I don't get around much anymore. I became frightened after 3 people from your world found my note and came here. Unfortunately, they were caught, and now they're decorating the garden outside. After that happened, I began to realize the true wickedness of what was going on here, and I hid the Logos Cube. Needless to say, I had to hide myself after that, and ever since then I've been living in the secret passages of this mansion. Like a rat in a maze, I know ways of getting around that even the Grand Autarch doesn't. No, and I've stayed alive by raiding the kitchen at odd hours. Even Autarchs have to munch, you know." He giggled again in a rather disconcerting way. Anthony's head was whirling. This was the man who had started them on their quest. There were a million questions that he wanted to ask, but he asked the one that seemed most important. Mr. Wabe," he stammered, "if your name really is Wabe, then is the clue, the word, is it just a joke, then?" asked the little man, reading his thoughts. "Oh, of course not. When I lived in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, I used to read a lot, and I know a lot of poems by heart. One of them is Jabberwocky, and I always thought how strange it was that one of the nonsense words in the poem was my last name, so I decided to give the word a little, shall we say, added significance." Emerson beamed. His theory had been right then. "Are we to understand that the Logos Cube is buried near a sundial?" he asked eagerly. The little man laughed and shook his head. Oh, dear me, no. You've got it all wrong. What I buried is something you need to destroy the cube. It's no good having the cube if you don't possess the thing that can get rid of it." Emerson looked puzzled. "But I don't understand," he said. "If you have the thing that will shatter the cube, why in heaven's name don't you use it?" The little man sighed. "I can't. Long ago I took a blood oath to protect the cube, and an Autarch's oath has a magical effect on him. I couldn't raise my hand to damage the cube in any way. The weapon would fall from my hand. So I just hid the wretched thing away and tried to provide someone else with the means of getting rid of it. I see, said Emerson, scratching his head uncertainly. Well, in that case, why don't you tell us where the cube is? We can take it to the place where the weapon is and smash it there. Or if we can't destroy it, we can at least carry it back to Minnesota with us. Does that make sense? The man smiled sheepishly. It would, he said, except for one small problem. I don't remember where I put it. Emerson's mouth dropped open. You what? He spluttered. I said I don't remember where it is, the man explained patiently. You see, I swiped the cube. I made the mistake of staring at it too long, and it handled my brain. I've been hiding for several years, and that doesn't improve your memory. There is a clue inscribed on the weapon that you may use, but I don't remember what it is. Besides, the weapon is buried outside, and I can't go outside for fear of getting caught. Oh, great, muttered Emerson. He chewed his lip. What should he do next? Well... Oh, great, muttered Emerson. He chewed his lip. What should he do next? Well, he said at last, can you at least show us a way of getting out of here? I assume that the weapon is buried in the garden. Am I right? Oh, yes, absolutely, replied the little man, nodding eagerly. As for getting out of here, I think I remember a way. If it's still there. Emerson blinked and stared at the man. To him, it seemed that things were getting more confused by the minute. What do you mean by that? Asked Emerson. Has someone blocked up the way? No, said the little man, shaking his head vigorously. I don't mean that at all. He heaved a sad sigh and sat down on one of the stone steps. Oh, let me try to make something clear to you, he went on gloomily. Lately, the Logos cube has gone wild at first. It just did little odd annoying things like changing the pictures on the walls or the color of flowers in vases. Excuse me. But then rooms began to vanish and passageways were suddenly blocked. Windows were breaking in the night for no reason at all. And when I was eavesdropping on the kitchen help the other day, I heard one of the Autarchs had vanished. He chuckled unpleasantly. Lord knows where he is. The cube may have sent him off to another dimension, or it may simply have vaporized him. It has a will of its own now, like a rebellious robot or a thinking machine that has gone mad. I'm just trying to warn you about what you'll be up against when you try to get out of this place. Silence fell. Suddenly, Miss Eels reached out and tugged at Emerson's coat sleeve. For the love of Pete, Em,